Welcome back to the Yoga Bellies and Babies podcast. I'm Krishna Hasamal, and today we're talking about something that I've been mulling over for a few weeks and I've been a bit shy to talk about, but the time has come. Is Pilates the new yoga? So my husband and I were recently having one of those conversations about things that pop up on our social media feeds. I'm an Instagram girly, he's on LinkedIn. And after about 30 minutes of back and forth, he came up with this conclusion. He said, cortisol is the new carb and fiber is the new protein. And I burst out laughing because he's kind of right. Every few years, there's a new health trend that takes over our feeds. And right now, it feels like Pilates, especially Reformer Pilates, is having its moment. So today, we're diving into what makes yoga and Pilates different, where they overlap, and why both have value. Now, will I be biased as a yoga teacher? Probably, but I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. I do go to Pilates once a week, and I used to teach Yogalates. That was a thing back in the day. So I've got a foot in both camps. Let's start with what I see. I see Reformer Pilates studios, actual physical studios, popping up everywhere. And I mean everywhere. I see this in the UK, in Spain, in Europe, in the US, and classes are booked. My Instagram feed is full of women doing Pilates in like tiny clothes, and they look hot and strong and empowered. And I think this is maybe also a post-COVID effect. People want to get back into studios. They want in-person classes and community again. And Reformer Pilates offers that. The equipment, that kind of stuff you don't get at home, that studio environment, the accountability of showing up. And I'm not a Pilates expert, but I go to mat Pilates once a week and I love it. I love it. My body feels amazing after the class and a few days after. My posture improves. I feel strong. I feel aligned. I've even tried a few Reformer Pilates classes and the teachers were terrible. And as a yoga teacher, I'm very picky about my teachers, but at least I tried it, right? Here's a little bit of history. I used to teach Yogalates for a little bit. I was covering for someone. So I'm not coming at this as someone who's anti-Pilates. But I do have to ask, why is Pilates having this moment? And what does it tell us about what we actually need as a society? And here's my personal theory. Pilates gives you physical and mental benefits without asking you to go deeper. In a Pilates class, you don't have to chant, you don't have to meditate, you don't have to think about your chakras or connect to anything spiritual. You show up, you move your body, you breathe, you feel good, done. And in a world where we're already overwhelmed and overstimulated and oversaturated with information, maybe that simplicity is exactly what people are craving right now. And maybe people want to move their bodies without having to take on another philosophy, another way of living, another layer of meaning. And I get it. I mean, as a busy mom, I completely get it. But here's where it gets interesting for me. I came across a post recently on Instagram that said that more people are practicing yoga than ever before, but we're not seeing the social change that yoga philosophy promises. It's like yoga has become a tick box activity, something we perform, not something we live by. And I'm going to tag the post in the show notes. And that made me wonder, have we stripped yoga down so much that it's become just another form of exercise? And if that's true, maybe Pilates is just more honest about what it actually is. It's movement, it's strength training, it's body work, it's breath work, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. Or maybe Pilates is just the new fad. Because let's be real, yoga was also a fad 20-ish years ago, and in many ways it still is. Now, there's something important to mention here about accessibility. Many pregnant and postnatal mums can't easily get to studios, whether it's childcare, timing, their work, just the physical challenge of getting out of the house with a pregnant belly or a newborn. Studio classes aren't always realistic. And that's actually why I offer online yoga, because I know that for many of you who are listening, that barrier isn't whether you want to practice, is whether you can actually physically get there. Now, before we talk about the differences, let's talk about the similarities, because there are a lot. What I see is that many Pilates classes incorporate yoga poses. They just give them a different name. And as a yoga teacher, I'll be honest, sometimes this makes me a little bit mad. So when a Pilates teacher says get into a inverted V instead of Adho Mukha Svanasana, I'm thinking at least just say downward facing dog or acknowledge where it came from. Or when a Pilates class ends with their palms together in front of their chest, that's Anjali Mudra, a yoga mudra. It's not a Pilates invention. Some Pilates classes even end in Shavasana, which is again taken from a yoga practice. And here's the thing, I completely get it. I understand why Pilates borrows these elements from yoga, because these poses and these practices work. They have amazing benefits. They've worked for thousands of years, so why reinvent the wheel? And in fact, in postnatal yoga, which is one of my specialities and what we teach in the Krish Yoga Studio, we do a lot of movements and sequences that you also see in Pilates because they work really well for strengthening the core, stabilizing the pelvis, rebuilding that strength and recovering after birth. So the physical overlap is huge. And they're both amazing when it comes to physical practices. But where I see is the difference isn't really about the poses or the movements. It's what else yoga brings to the table. So Pilates is a physical conditioning system, right? It focuses on core strength, on alignment, control, and precision, breath coordination with movement, building stability and balance. And it's incredibly effective. It strengthens you and it makes you more flexible. Yoga does all of that too. The strength, the alignment, the breath, the flexibility. But it also includes breathwork for the nervous system regulation, pranayama, meditation, philosophy, and ethics. Yes, ethics. That's in the yamas and the niyamas. Energy work when we talk about mudras and mantras. Essentially a spiritual dimension that connects you to something beyond your physical body. So in my opinion, yoga includes everything that Pilates does, plus another dimension. Now, it's not that one is better than the other, right? But it may be that yoga does ask more of you. And for some people, that's just too much. They don't want the philosophy. Maybe not yet. They don't want to sit still. They just need to move their body, have a bit of a sweat, and feel strong, and feel it the next day in their muscles. And that's okay. But here's what I would like us to explore. What if you're in a season of life that you actually need to go a layer deeper? Maybe you don't want to go that layer deeper, but maybe it's what you need. Yes, let's talk about pregnancy and postpartum. If you're growing a baby, recovering from birth, or raising small children, you're not just moving through a physical change. You're moving through an identity shift. Your body is transforming in ways that you cannot control. Your hormones are all over the place. Your nervous system is on high alert. You're grieving who you were while also trying to figure out who you're becoming. So this practice is not just about building core strength and losing those extra baby kilos that we talk about. It's about navigating one of the most profound transitions of your life. And this is where yoga's extra dimension becomes essential. So here are some examples. Breathwork or pranayama. So in Pilates, breath is functional. You inhale to prepare and you take an exhalation to engage your core. Every movement has a breath with it. In yoga, breath is a tool for regulation. It calms your nervous system. Not just calms it, it balances your nervous system. During birth, it helps you stay present whilst you're having your contractions or your surges. And it grounds you when you're overwhelmed by a crying baby at 3 a.m. I used breathwork during my 3 pregnancies and 4 births. But I used breathwork, and especially for the home birth and for the twins, there was no pain relief. It was just the breath. And it worked because I practiced it over and over again. I didn't practice it as a fitness technique, but as a way to regulate my body's response to intensity and to get automatic about it. Because when you practice, it becomes automatic. Then there's philosophy and mindset. Pilates doesn't ask you to examine your beliefs about your body or your capacity. Yoga does. In yoga classes, we don't talk about it enough, but there's ethical guidelines, the yamas and the niyamas, and these teach us principles like nonviolence and truthfulness and self-study, yes, self-inquiry. So when you're pregnant and terrified of birth, ahimsa, nonviolence, asks, how can I be gentle with myself? How can I stop fighting my body and start trusting it? When you're in postpartum and you're comparing yourself to other mums on Instagram, Satya, truthfulness, will ask you, what is actually true here? How can I be honest about how I'm feeling and how hard or easy this is? And these aren't just nice ideas, they're actually survival tools for the mental and emotional overwhelm of motherhood. Then there's mudras and mantras. And I know it sounds a bit woo-woo to some of you, but I think it's important, and it's an important part of yoga. Mudras are hand positions that channel energy, hands and finger positions. And mantras are sounds or phrases that brings focus to your mind. And in labor and in those early postpartum days where you feel you're losing yourself, these tools work. I use a mantra during my second birth. I am safe. My body knows what to do. Over and over again. And it helped me, it grounded me when everything was feeling out of control. You might have learned these as affirmations instead of mantras. And this is not something that you get in Pilates. You don't get that in Pilates because Pilates isn't designed for that. Another thing is about sitting in silence together. So Pilates and yoga classes create community. Both of them create community. When you show up regularly to a group class, you connect with other people, whether it's online or in person. You see familiar faces, you share that space. And that's valuable in both practices, yoga and Pilates. Here's where yoga offers something different, in my opinion. In a yoga class, we sit together in silence. We breathe together. We chant Om together, maybe not in every class, but in many of them. And there's something profound about that. When you're sitting in a circle, in a prenatal or postnatal yoga class, either with the babies or without the babies, and you're breathing together, you're not just exercising. You're sharing the experience, that lived experience of being in your body together during this massive transition. When you chant Om together at the end of the class, you're connecting to something bigger than yourself. You're connecting to that deeper level of yourself and the people around you and outside that room. And that collective stillness, that shared breath, that's what creates a different kind of connection than just working out in the same room. So which one should you do? Now, here's where I land. If you just want to move your body and feel strong, do Pilates. Seriously, it's great. I do it and I love it. But if you're pregnant, postpartum, or navigating that massive identity shift that motherhood gives us, then yoga gives you something Pilates can't. Yoga gives you everything Pilates does: strength, alignment, flexibility, breath, coordination, plus tools to regulate your nervous system, plus a philosophy to guide you through uncertainty, plus practices that support you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, not just physically. Also gives you a way to connect with other women through shared stillness and breath and silence. And here's the thing, you can do both. Do both. I do both. I love my weekly Pilates class. I love it for the strength and for the alignment. I love to feel the muscles in my core having worked the next day. But I also practice yoga because it supports my whole life, my entire being, and not just my body. But let me be honest about something. Pilates, especially Reformer Pilates, does look cooler than yoga right now. The machines, the equipment, the Instagram-worthy aesthetic. So compared to that, yoga might seem a little bit boring. You're on the mat. We've been on the mat for the last 20 years. Sometimes you're just sitting there, breathing, lying in child's pose or shavasana for 5, 10, 15 minutes. That's not flashy. That's not sexy. But here's what I learned in over, 25 years of practicing and about 14 years of teaching. The simple, boring things work best. Consistent breath work, a regular meditation practice, showing up to the same yoga class every week. This isn't sexy. This won't go viral on TikTok, but it's what's actually going to change your life. And during pregnancy and postpartum, when everything feels chaotic and overwhelming, maybe what you need isn't something flashy. Maybe what you need is something simple, something sustainable, something that meets you where you are. And I'd like to come back to that post I mentioned earlier. Most people are doing yoga, but we're not seeing the social change. That's what it says in the Instagram post. I think it's because yoga has become something we perform. Something, we show up to a class, we post a photo and a pose, we tick the box. Yes, I went for yoga, tick, but we're not living it. And I get it. Life is busy. you're exhausted, you don't have the bandwidth for deep philosophy. So here's my invitation. What if you didn't have to do all of it at once? What if you started with just one breath practice, one mantra, one principle from the yamas and the niyamas that speaks to you where you are right now? Yoga is not about perfection. It's not about the result. It's not about that goal. It's about practice. And during pregnancy and postpartum, when everything feels like too much, even small doses of yoga's deeper dimension can change everything. So, to wrap up, is Pilates the new yoga? Maybe it's the new fad, just like yoga was 20 years ago. But when it comes to pregnant and postnatal women, yoga's depth, the breathwork, the philosophy, the spiritual connection offers tools that support your whole self during one of the biggest transitions of your life. And when you support your whole self, you support your family self as well. So before I wrap up, I want to hear from you. What do you think about this? What do you think about my take on yoga versus Pilates? Do you practice Pilates, yoga, or both? What's your experience been? Send me a message on Instagram. I'm at krish_yoga, or email me at hello@krishyoga.com. I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. And if this resonated with you, whether you agreed or disagreed, I want to invite you to join me for the Modern Mama Method. It's a free 5-day live yoga and mindset challenge starting on Monday, January the 12th. And it's your way to build a sustainable motherhood. In 5 days, we'll explore strength, rest, pelvic floor health, identity shift, and how to build sustainable practices that actually fit into your real life as a mother, whether you're pregnant or post-pregnancy. And it's not about adding more to your plate. Nobody needs that. It's about giving you the tools that actually work on a physical level, mentally, and emotionally. Sign up at www.krishyoga.com/prenatal-yoga-mindset. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mama who you think might need to hear this. Your support helps me bring you better episodes, interviews, and content every week. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.